Now, good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to our first meeting in December. Can you believe that? And and I want to give it over to Deb, our speaker today. And
Actually, before I begin to speak, just so everybody's aware, we are looking for some people to pick up some additional responsibilities. One of them would be for like a speaker coordinators. So we're looking for someone to pick up for that. And we're also looking for someone who would be interested in as a webmaster. So if anybody is interested in either one of those roles, it would be a big help if we can get somebody to volunteer before you're voluntold you're going to do it. And that would be most helpful.
Yeah, we need some support because I don't know, everybody knows that Linda will leave us to the end of the year. So we need somebody to replace her in our club for the different kind of functions. And before everybody do that, we said maybe we can split it up to somebody who is a webmaster and one make that with a speaker, that it's not that much and time consuming, right? So that is the background for that.
Before we go much further, I want to see Jerry's head. Looks pretty good, buddy.
What's happened? You're muted, Jerry. Jerry, you're muted.
That's my tough motorcyclist look.
Not working.
It's not working. I was gonna say, I think that those are typically the ones you get when you're doing something dumb.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So welcome, but back to you, Deb.
Okay, excellent. All right, let me see if I can get my screen share going on here, because I actually developed a PowerPoint, which normally I haven't done one of these in forever, so it's actually kind of funny. But yeah, you guys get to hear about me tonight, and all I could say is I'm sorry. I joked. I told my husband that I had to talk about myself for probably a good 25 minutes tonight. He was like, "Oh Lord!" I'm like, "No kidding." But you know, one of the things that I always think about since I kind of got into this is, you know, I joined this not having a background in Rotary, so my mindset, I feel, is a little bit different than a lot of people here within our club, because I feel I'm a motorcyclist first and then I'm a Rotarian. So that's one of those things that kind of gives me sometimes I think about it a little bit, because my take on things is probably a little different than some people's. So when I talk about things, I probably should talk about my husband. So my husband is the gentleman on the left in this picture. This is one of my favorite photos. It was actually taken on this little ferry that we have here called the Lynchburg Ferry. And I have been married to my husband since 2003. He is a native Chicagoan, whereas I grew up in the suburbs, and he will be the first one to tell you that is definitely a distinction. Additionally, my husband is a fire protection engineer, and in the last 10 years, it has taken us from living in Chicago to Columbia, Maryland, Minneapolis, and now Houston. So there he is.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Left in the photo or left as we're looking at it?
As you're looking at it, he is the gentleman on the left. The older gentleman on the right is my very good friend, Len, who has taught me a lot about motorcycle safety. So I am grateful to have him in my life. He was a guy. He's not riding as much now, which you know was just one of those things that happens. And they are getting ready. He and his wife are actually getting ready to retire up to Tennessee. And I keep going, oh, that's perfect, because it's right on the way out to, you know, places like, you know, the Tail of the Dragon and things like that. So I look for the opportunity in it. So now, and actually the bike that you see my husband riding on, the silver one here, that is actually the bike I'm riding now. That is a 2007 Roadliner S. I have a Yamaha house, which is also a little bit unusual. Actually, now that I'm looking at everybody in this photo, I'm like, who is that guy in the back on the bike? I'm not even sure. But now I will digress and head on here. But my husband is a fire protection engineer. We moved to Houston for him to take on doing industrial design for the oil and gas industry. So that was kind of a big change there. But so in my past, I actually spent 26 years in publishing, specializing in content on estate and gift tax law, and then federal securities exchange law and bank compliance. So I have like this huge compliance background, but just kind of lay on to that I was in publishing, and I had kind of morphed over time and started building websites on that level for entities like the FINRA, the New York Stock Exchange, the American Stock Exchange. So I had a really fun job out towards the end. I spent a lot of time on Wall Street, and I can say that 9/11 affected me profoundly because I knew people in the buildings. You know, that was just part of my everyday life. And so that was definitely an interesting time. But not only did I focus on US law, I also built components for the UK, for India, and Germany. So I did a lot of different stuff, especially in that last 16 years. I worked for a company called Wolters Kluwer. They develop research materials for legal entities. So basically all the lawyers in the universe tend to know what I did and how I did it. But I managed a multinational team of 10 employees, and I had employees all over the place. It was really, really interesting having to learn the cultural differences then of my team in the US versus the UK, and then India. India was the most complicated. But doing all this for that period of time really gave me a lot of project management, the internet research building skills. So I learned a lot doing that. And yes, I was actually a youth when I started there, and it was definitely an interesting time. I watched a lot of change in our how our government works and how things go. So now I have like this weird sense of wanting to understand like what's going on in Congress, especially when it comes to taxes and things like that. It's strange. But going on, here I am now, and actually, I'm not sure if anybody remembered this particular hair color. Yeah, I've gotten a little crazy with it, but I left corporate America in 2015 as part of downsizing. I was one of those people. I got downsized, and right before that happened, probably 2 years prior to that, we moved from Chicago up to where did we go? I went to Minneapolis. When we were in Maryland, I didn't live out there full time. My husband was living out there full time, and I was kind of doing this crazy back and forth business. And definitely, it was the first step in a lot of life change. And I know some of you can understand this, where we've become very rooted as a society, and it's like where you grew up and where you were born is where you were, you spent your whole life there. And so my husband and I ended up kind of really having a moment, and we moved around. We never expected. Actually, if you told me 10 years ago I'd be living in Texas, I'd be like, you're so funny. But what happened with being downsized, for the first time in my life, I actually had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And that was like a major change. I ended up getting into insurance for a while. I actually did life insurance, but I also went into a niche area of life insurance that was about the SBA. When you get an SBA loan, you are required to get life insurance. So I had kind of like this interesting niche market that I was working with. I had met a woman who was my mentor. She's actually based up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. In case anybody needs to talk about insurance, I will be happy to send you to her. And she taught me a lot, and which was really great to have that mentor. But what I realized is that was so not what I wanted to do with my life. I met my business partner now, my current business partner, Brent, and I met in 2016 while I was actually doing a lot of networking for my insurance business. So it was funny because we met under that guise, but our relationship changed. I went full time with him in 2017 as the director of digital marketing for Tech Edge Services. And that was an interesting time, you know, changing, now moving again now into small business and being in a small business environment. So now that leads me to, now I'll talk about motorcycling. So if you, once again, if you had told me years ago that I would be riding my own motorcycle, I probably would have laughed and been like, yeah, sure, I'm going to ride my own motorcycle. But when 2011 came along, my husband kind of confessed to me that he always wanted to learn to ride. He really did. And so he signed up, and there's a whole story there that I won't bore you all with, but he signed up first, and we bought our first bike. That is actually our first bike. It is a 2009 Yamaha V-Star 1300. And that bike was a great bike. Oh my God, that bike was a tank. But what happened was it was not large enough for the way my husband wanted to move. And so in this period of time, we bought the bike, and I said, well, you know, if we're going to buy a bike, I'm actually going to go and get my license. So late in 2011, I got my license, surprised myself, passed the class first shot, very happy about that. And kind of the adventure began. And a story I love to tell people is I had just gotten my endorsement. I was all excited. And my husband had been out riding and came home and said to me, hey, do you want to go take the bike out? And I was like, I don't know. You know, I had just gotten my endorsement. And so finally I went out there and I came back. I rode around our neighborhood twice. We lived kind of like on a giant loop. And I came back, I looked at him, I'm like, you're getting a new bike because I'm keeping this one. So that's kind of a big joke between him and I now. I did keep that bike. I sold it last year and I bought another big bike instead, which is pretty funny. But now I was a Writer's Edge graduate. I cannot say enough good things about that whole going through that whole class. And I envy Keith, I envy you for, you know, being an instructor. I have a bunch of friends who have actually become instructors here in Texas, which I'm really excited about. If y'all remember Penny Fuller, who was the accident scene management trainer, she actually just got certified to teach here in Texas and has been certified to teach the Harley Davidson program. So we're really excited about that. But prior to this picture, this is my first time on a bike. And the only other time I had been on a motorcycle was as a passenger on my dad's Goldwing. And so this was quite the big moment for me. I've lost my little buttons. Up there they are. Okay, so now here I am, many moons later. I have moved, obviously, a few times. When I first moved up to Minneapolis, I knew nobody, but I was a motorcyclist. So I kind of took the initiative and opportunity to use that to meet new people, you know, to find new friends, to build new relationships. And so when I was up there, there was a great women's group called the Shift Kickers. Notice I said that really slowly for y'all. And with meeting them, you know, you had a lot of camaraderie, and there were women who had been riding for years and years and were founts of, you know, fantastic knowledge. And, you know, I met friends who I'm still friends with to this day who say to me, come on, ride up to Minneapolis. We'll go north. Which is great. It set it's actually a pretty high bar. So now, of course, after 2 years in Minneapolis, I'm now moving to Houston. Well, when I first got to Houston, I found a group called the Freedom Cruisers. They are a riding club. And that was our first introduction to kind of the local riding scene here, which was really helpful because, once again, new town, not knowing anybody, anything. This was our first thing. And the great thing is it's given us a lot of new lifelong friends that are all locals. At the same time, I really wanted to find a local women's riding group. And I really didn't find what I was looking for because I wasn't riding a Harley. So the whole hog groups, LOH groups were not within my, my area. I founded one, and I've done a lot of work in community development. I have now over 1,100 women riders here in the Houston area. I've managed to introduce a lot of people to each other. People, Houston, I want to say Houston is like the size of Delaware. I mean, it's a huge, huge metro area. And it's given people the opportunity to meet someone they didn't know before. So super excited about, how the growth there has taken off. I have been a speaker at women's riding events, because when people find me and they find out what I've done here, we're trying to replicate it and, give the same support to in other towns just as well. Not only is it's about support, but it's also about new riders. When new riders come out, there's nothing worse than a brand new motorcycle sitting in a garage and not being ridden. And sometimes they just lack that confidence. And sometimes they feel they're being pushed too hard by their spouse or their boyfriend. So we end up stepping in, and I have kind of a whole team of people with me that we step in and we, get them that confidence. A lot of cases it takes, just a single ride and gives them the feeling like, hey, I can do this. The great thing is I do work in conjunction with a lot of our area riding instructors, because they've told me, they're like, we don't know what happens to riders once we give them their endorsement. Once they have that endorsement, they go out, they don't know if they ever go any further with it, if they actually ride. So a lot of them were very relieved to find out that we were out there and moving ahead. So it's been really all about creating a positive environment for women riders, including new riders. We do a lot of fun rides. The picture, as you're facing the screen, the picture on the left, that was a group ride I did. There's a great little place up on one of the lakes called the Bullet Grill House, and it's one of my favorite places. And this was just a random ride we put together, and you can see I got a nice group of ladies there. I also work with different groups, because the one thing I hear a lot about is, I want to know more about my motorcycle, the actual motorcycle. I want to know how the engine works. I want to know how this goes together. How do I change my own oil? So I also work with a lot of the dealerships and actually a couple of independents on training women, getting them more educated about what they've gotten themselves into. So we have a lot of fun. We try and do lots of different things. So in 2020, I launched a fundraising effort, and that all actually came in the same time that I ended up obviously joining Rotary. But we raised money for a couple different entities this year, actually in the last 2 years. We did some work with this Access Youth Network and supporting underprivileged youth. For them, it was all about Easter. They were holding an Easter event in an area, a very underprivileged area, and we did a lot with that. This year, we also worked with the Family Time Crisis and Counseling Center. They are a local entity that runs a shelter for women escaping domestic violence situations. I've learned a lot about that. It amazed me how many women I knew that I hadn't realized they had come out of situations of domestic violence. And, you don't really think about that on a regular basis, but it was very revealing to me. The Houston Area Women's Center and the Blue Star Moms have also been beneficiaries of our fundraising. Additionally, I do a lot of work personally with Wreaths Across America. We have the Houston National Veterans Cemetery is an enormous place, and we do quite a bit with that. But and here I talk about Wreaths Across America. My husband is the president of a local motorcycle chapter, and they are a military service MC. And so their main fundraising really is all about Wreaths Across America. So it does lie pretty close to my heart. So on the 18th of December, I will be out at the Houston National Cemetery laying wreaths with the club and a lot of my friends. I encourage you all that look into your local cemeteries, find out who's having the ceremonies. It's actually it's very moving. The Houston, the big national cemetery in Houston is, as I said, it's an enormous place. And I'm also a member of the Patriot Guard. So going out there and supporting these veterans who are being buried out there every day, it strikes very close to us. And it has been moving. But the one thing I've seen over the years is not only have we supported these big cemeteries, there are a lot of small cemeteries that have veterans buried in them that aren't getting any love. And so the picture you see here was a small veteran cemetery down on the south side of the city. I want to say this was in Manville, which I know Uda will know where that is. But it was a small cemetery, and when his club first started, they had no support for wreaths, and now they got quite a force out there. The Boy Scouts got involved, and it was always great to go out there. Junior ROTC would come out, and we make a day of it. So that's another cause close to my heart. But I talk about memberships. I belong to quite a few different groups, and a lot of these are women's-based groups. It's been an adventure for me. I really enjoyed it. I meet all sorts of very interesting women. The Women's International Motorcycle Association, which we will be having a future speaker from, it's an interesting association. They bring together women from around the world. So this year they went and they rode in Pakistan, and it was an amazing trip. The pictures are crazy. I've been on a couple of calls where we got a chance to chat about it, and they talk about the small motorcycles, and they talk about riding up the mountains, which if you know me, I'm like, oh my God, different pavement. I have weird pavement PTSD. But one day I may get over it and actually take one of these interesting trips. The Women's Coalition of Motorcyclists is actually a group that is working towards getting better standards for women within the motorcycle industry, because it's a demographic that's really been overlooked over time. And lastly, the Antique Motorcycle Club of America. I belong to the Riveters chapter, which is a brand new chapter. This is the chapter that is putting on the Chicks on 66 ride in June of next year. And that is a ride that I am actually really toying with doing. The hardest part about it is the fact that it starts in Chicago, it will end in Los Angeles, and it's butting right up against the Rotary International Conference. So I'm trying to carefully decide what I am going to do next. But I do a lot of different things. Tech Edge has become obviously a very important part of my life. With the corporate side, we are a managed IT services company servicing small to medium businesses here in the Houston area. We have had tremendous growth in the last 2 years. I came on board to be the director of digital marketing. So I have a counterpart who is the director of IT services. And so we all work together. We're small, we are very small, but we're getting the job done. Oil and gas is really the main beneficiary of our services, but I also serve real estate offices, doctors, and a few local government entities. This summer, I spent a lot of time with one of the fire departments, which was actually pretty cool, building a new website for them. So you never know what's going to come across my desk. Right now, I'm working on a website for a small, I'm trying to think of how to say this, a small boutique meat market. If you can imagine trying to build something for that. I also have a company, a startup that is doing some really interesting nanotechnology stuff. So it runs this really interesting gamut. It makes my everyday really interesting. I also have a secondary, the world sometimes gives you things that you don't expect. And so I have a secondary thing where I have been running the property management side, actually not the property management side. I have been running the reservation side of a property management company in Aruba. And that is another like long, strange tale of how I got there. But I usually head to Aruba about once a year. You know, COVID hit, and I have now not been in Aruba since 2019. Yep, 2019. So I'm planning I'll be out there hopefully in the spring this year. But I have properties ranging from luxury condos to single family homes. So if you ever decide you want to go to Aruba, they do rent motorcycles. It is an island, I will tell you. It is not a huge island, but it's beautiful because you go from the beach to the high desert. It's really crazy. But this gave me a lot of exposure to VRBO and Airbnb and some other interesting platforms for hotel reservations. So I got to do this. This is like my side gig. It's a lot of fun, but I do a lot of different stuff. I actually enjoy it, and I am lucky enough that I do love to travel. Over the last, my husband and I've been married for 18 years, and we have traveled pretty consistently up until these last 2 years, because COVID just made that really super difficult. And so we're really looking forward to getting back out there. And I personally do several motorcycle trips a year with a bunch of my girlfriends. There's a picture of us in front of the Steel Magnolias house in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Can't say enough fun stuff about it. It's a beautiful little town, and the movie Steel Magnolias portrays it very well. My husband and I also go out to Las Vegas and New Orleans on a regular basis. If you ever need information, please just ask. This year, still between now and the end of the year, we will be heading to Tucson for Christmas, and that's if you ever want to have some fun, just drive across the state of Texas. We will be happy if we make it to, I think it'll be Las Cruces, New Mexico within that first day. So that all aside, I believe that is everything. So let me turn this off. And does anyone have any questions, anything I can answer, anything you want to know about me that you haven't asked?
Amanda.
Oh, you're all being kind. There we go.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So with your small IT company, I posted the link, by the way, in the chat for everybody. What is your primary business line? Is it more, we're a very small company and we need somebody to come manage our IT on a contract basis, or is it more?
Well, what's happened is in a lot of cases for the IT side, they have realized there's a benefit in not having an on-staff person. We can provide the same services at a much lower cost. So they're not, nowadays it's about, we have to pay benefits. We have to do all these, we have to pay somebody. And so they find that they can save money by bringing us in as a service. And so we'll look at how many employees they have, how many desktops are we actually managing? Are we doing server management? We've expanded. I mean, it's amazing in the 4 years that I have been doing this with him. We have school clients. Recently I sat through a meeting. One of our big local Catholic churches had some really interesting questions on software development. We actually have an arm that we develop software in, and it's some really, it can go 10 different directions, and my business partner will go 200 miles an hour head first into a wall unless I stop him some days. Sometimes I've been told I am the voice of reason. So I've
never been told that.
Yeah, it's very funny. When people found out, especially within we were doing network marketing when we were in our early days, and people would ask when they would find out that I was working with him, because they would know both of us separately, and they're like, "Wow, she's like the nice side of him." There's a lot of interesting. What would I say? There's a lot of interesting mentality here in Texas, and it's a lot of like old boys network. It's about who you know. Yes. So it is always evolving and changing. And a lot of my business now is not so much, I do very little networking per se, which is fantastic. It is really, it's a referral, it's turned into a referral based business. And it tends to be, I'll get a call because someone will say, oh, I saw so and so and I saw their new website and I need a website. So yeah, let's talk about it. So I help develop marketing plans for people now. Social media is, sometimes it's the devil, sometimes it can be the best thing that ever happened to your business. So it all depends.
Yeah, so just looking, even on this call, there are at least 3 of us that are either currently or formerly involved very heavily in IT, right? Like I'm in cloud now, but I was in managed services a couple months ago.
Oh yeah.
So I just want to kind of put that out there. If you ever want anything, you want to just bounce an idea, you have, a customer who's asking for a cloud migration or something like that, reach out, make sure that you take advantage of the knowledge that you have on the team.
No, absolutely. And that, I view this as a chance not only to talk about myself, but talk about what I do. Yeah, I kind of wonder when I sleep sometimes too, but somehow I've been sleeping really, really good, which is really great. I can tell you, in the 4 years with my partner, I mean, there were times where we worried how we were going to make payroll. Okay, you're gonna get a check this week, and I'll take a check next week, and we're hoping, and we've grown this into a 7-figure business.
That's
So
awesome. I was going to ask, so that was kind of a follow-up question is, do you have full-time employees? Do you do 1099 like independent contractors, both?
I actually have both now, and that's kind of an interesting development. It may be in some people's interest when you're a small business now. You can look at things holistically, whereas I am a full employee of the company. My counterpart decided he actually wanted to be a contractor. But once again, if you know about building yourself an LLC and all that, and you can write off more with it, fantastic. It's not for everyone. The interesting development that I'll add in the middle of all this is that, yeah, my husband and I decided we're going to build a new house here in Houston. So, and you all haven't known me very long, but for my husband and I, that's a really, really big deal because it means we're staying here in Houston. So we have signed a contract. And so for those purposes, it's better for me to be an employee right now. If you're going through any sort of financing, there's a lot of questions people like to ask. And when you're a contractor or in a contract role employee, it's, not as much fun. But
yeah, right now with the big push to push all of this stuff remote, everybody working remote, I'll tell you that there's a niche that's very well filled by small agile companies, which is finding 1099 employees, short-term employees to hop in to do some of the hard stuff. So yeah, if you ever have somebody who's looking, you find somebody who's looking for a job or something, that's another thing to reach out to the team. You tell I'm still in work mode. Reach out to us about like, hey, does anybody have any contract openings or something that we could slot somebody in?
Absolutely. And technology, nowadays, once again, the last year has been very revealing. And I'm pretty sure many of you have seen the change where you can imagine, all of a sudden when your government entity says, hey, guess what? You all can't be in the same office anymore. And you are horribly unprepared for that moment to move your staff into a, cloud environment and all that. So that's what we spent a lot of last year doing. And now a lot of places are not going back. They're not saying that, we're going to bring our employees back in. They like the flexibility of it. I've seen reduced a lot of real estate kind of popping up because of that as well in the commercial real estate side, because places are saying, well, we don't need everybody here full time anymore. There are people who abuse the system. Don't get me wrong. I actually have a great story about that from when I worked in corporate America. I had a woman who took a second job. Can you imagine? So I'm paying her as a full-time employee, and she has taken a second job, and suddenly, she's not answering her phone, yeah. So she suddenly was down a job somewhere in there. And this was many years ago now, but you like to hope that your employees are responsible adults. And the great thing about the way we run is that we try and treat people like adults. I'm not going to give you a schedule. I was a manager for way too many years to know that doesn't work. If we respect people and you respect their ideas and their abilities, I don't care when you get your job done as long as deadlines are met. And I have happy clients, because when I have clients who are not happy who call me, that's not good. Actually, that is a thing with my IT techs, because I have clients who are both on the IT side and on the digital marketing side. And when they don't get an answer for something on the IT side, they'll call me. And my techs have learned, you don't want a phone call from me. No good is going to come from a phone call from me. So it's definitely interesting. It's interesting stuff. So there's one other thing that I realized I never talked about in that presentation, which is I am actually a volunteer for the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo has over 30,000 volunteers. It's a very volunteer-driven association. And I do something really crazy. I actually pay to volunteer, but I am a stadium gatekeeper. So that means I work inside the stadium during the 21 days of the show. I work so many shifts, but I've seen a lot of great bands. I've met a lot of interesting people. It was very cool to meet, I met the governor one night. I met George Bush while he was still alive. So crazy, they would come to the show, and very, very nice people. I have lots of great stories about doing that, but I've been a volunteer now. This will be my 7th season. And so it is one more thing. So the month of March, if you try and talk to me and I'm just like, oh, please don't, it's because I'm in rodeo mode. So
Deb, can you tell them how is our connection?
Oh, sure.
And Don, don't forget Don.
Oh no, we will know. So the funny thing about our lovely president and I is that we met during, once again, with me running this Houston area women riders, we met doing that. And I never thought very much, you don't think beyond that. I meet a lot of people. And so, we met and we became friends on Facebook and we catch up. Well, there's a guy he was just a guy on my team at that time. But Don was, it turned out Don's a Rotarian. And Don ended up going to Germany with Uda a couple years ago that was for the international, right? That was for Rotary International.
For Hamburg Convention.
Yes. And so it was really funny because I'm sitting there like scrolling around on Facebook like everybody does. And all of a sudden I'm looking at a picture from my friend Don, and there's Uda. And I'm like, wait a minute, how do these two things connect? So it was really funny when we kind of put all the pieces together, and it was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And so I'll see Don tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. So Don knew I became a Rotarian. Unfortunately, the last time we were at his Rotary Club, he was unable to be at that meeting, but I know tomorrow night he'll be like, so what's going on in your little Rotary universe? And so it's a very small world when you really get down to it.
So and I get involved to Deborah's group, Woman Riders group, from a friend you met at my installation. So Carol was the first. She joined her group and she brought me in her group. And then I was making some socials, only 2 or 3, right?
Right.
And then I came to the idea that I said, oh, we need some members and we need, special. That was the same theme, woman, rider, and then why not Rotary? And then I asked her one time, and I didn't expect any, that she says, oh yes, let us meet or whatever. I asked her and I said, oh, do you have time for lunch or whatever? Because it was such a big theme that I didn't want to tell her, oh, I want to talk with you over that. So I said, do you have time for lunch or whatever? And surprisingly, she said, yes. And then, she came over, we met, and then with no motorcycle, she just ran. She passed me before she realized, oh, that's her. Because
yeah, exactly. The context. I'm used to her dressed for riding. So now here we are, and we're both dressed normally. It's like, wait a minute, this is kind of tripping with me a little bit. But it's definitely been an interesting journey, and I've enjoyed my time here, meeting people, meeting other Rotarians. It's always interesting because when people find out I'm a Rotarian, they're like, really? And they ask, like it's been an interesting journey, and hopefully we can, continue to recruit some new people. One of the things that I do, and I want to encourage everyone to do it as well, is I share our events that are posted within the Rotary Club of Motorcycling Rotarians page on Facebook. And we do have some interesting speakers coming up. Some of them are motorcycle related, some of them are not. Next week's discussion will be with a woman about trafficking in children, and she has a whole organization. So, once again, looking to kind of involve people on different levels. And so I encourage people to share that event, and maybe we'll get some guests out of it, which would be really nice.
Yeah. So we are glad you are here. I'm glad that you are here and a part of
Thank you.
it.
I was just going to give you kudos, Deb. The work that you've done to amplify our message and make sure that the social media is getting out has been awesome.
I've been trying, and Facebook.
You've been doing.
Well, but Facebook is changing as well. And so there's some challenges that are coming up that I'm trying to keep ahead of and kind of make people aware that things are changing. And I see it because it's my business to see it, but I also see it from the group perspective. And they change things. It's the algorithms change. How do we make sure we're getting our message out? What you see in your feed is so dependent on what you're clicking on or what you're responding to. You could follow 300 different groups, but maybe you're only seeing a small percentage of that actual action on Facebook. And it is really interesting when you dig into it. And I mean, there are people, once again, it does crack me up because, of course, with going through this whole situation of building a house, I've been spending a lot of time looking at all sorts of things. So my feed, it cracks me up like on a daily basis by, oh yeah, that's right, I searched, Sherwin-Williams. Now I'm seeing Sherwin-Williams ads, and I'm seeing home builder ads, and I'm seeing, carpeting and all sorts of, and it's like, yeah, this is how pervasive it is. So
or put something in your shopping cart and then change your mind and leave it there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you left it.
Don't you want it?
Don't you
I think Amazon was doing that.
You've left it in your cart. It's like, I know. If I leave it in the cart in the store, somebody will put it back on the shelf. I guess I got to delete it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they will chase you down. It's really interesting. It's also interesting from the perspective of trying to help small businesses get their message out. And so I have and I hate to say this out loud, I'm working with some millennials right now who only want to text message me. Don't get me started on what a crappy way that is to communicate with people. So that aside, they're a company that does tea. And so I have now been working with them for months and months and months on how to get their message out. And I'm just like, killing me, people.
So what are you seeing? What are you seeing as far as social media trends that we as a club need to be paying attention to stay ahead of it?
The big thing I'm watching, they changed how groups work. And so with groups, they kind of instituted this whole, you either are a public group or you are a private group. And the thing I have a big concern about right now is because I'm also administrating the IFMRNA page. And the big question that I put out to some people is, do we want to remain a private page? Do we want to become a private group, which means people have to ask to join it versus anybody can see what we comment on, anybody can see what we post on. I worry about a lot of garbage coming into people's feeds when you have open open groups like that. So that's one thing I'm watching a little more closely right now. As someone who runs several different groups, this is a big concern for me. That lately Facebook has done they clamp down so tightly that, you know, people are getting suspended for things like, I only commented, I had one that somebody's like, they made a suggestion for something completely inane, and Facebook decided that that was considered an offensive remark and locked their account for a day. It's like,
I had that happen. I had that happen a couple days ago. And the funny thing is I then screenshot the comment to post it as a laugh about it, and then they blocked me again.
Yeah, and I know people who are very politically outspoken that are constantly getting banged for you know, just posting their feelings. And I'm a true believer in, and I'm connected with many of you on Facebook. I'm a true believer. You can say whatever you want. You know, I have the ability to scroll right past it, and that is what I suggest. If you are seeing things that you don't agree with, well, guess what? You know, I scroll past. There are some people I have actually muted. Bless you. There are people I've muted because they just got downright crazy. And
so are there other platforms we need to be looking at to make?
None of them have taken off. I mean, people are on them. I did not move. I have made, as a person running a large group, I made the very conscious decision that I was not going to move to another platform. I have, you know, a very established presence. Now, you know, the thing with doing that is, okay, you want to, you know, I want to keep my Facebook presence, but now I'm trying to run 2 or 3 others, and there's no good way to manage that. And so literally, you know, versus now I have to go and post on, what is it, Mayway, and this one and that one. No, thank you, I'll pass.
Did we ever figure out how to get our Facebook post to automatically post to Instagram?
No, and I think I have to take a look at that, because there's obviously a connection, and we got to figure out, there's a password, there's something that has to be fixed. So we'll figure it out. I just haven't, that was not a priority at that given time, but yeah, getting back onto Instagram. Oh, totally random aside moment. If you all have pictures, especially for any sort of, you know, any motorcycle trips, if it's related to Rotary, if it's related to IFMR, new pictures would be fabulous for us to receive, to be posted on our website, our Motorcycle Motarians website. I wanted to say that out loud. It came up in our last board meeting, and it would be really great if anyone has anything newer, just to get some fresh ones out there.
We have hundreds of pictures from the Maggie Valley ride.
Excellent.
If that's,
oh no, that'd be great. Just pick some and send them in so we can get some updating going on.
And we need some pics, you know, with you guys and the motorcycles, because we checked the site the other day, you know. Last week we had a lonely women meeting because nobody else was there. It was a fun meeting. But
you all miss seeing Amanda's kitchen.
Yes,
that's all I'm gonna tell you. Y'all miss seeing Amanda's kitchen.
It was super entertaining to watch me prepare dinner while we talked.
Yes,
yes,
exactly. So it was really fun, but we need some new pictures on the website, that we have some movement, you know, and make it more. I can send you over what I have from what we did, the polio ride.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of plant that in everybody's brain. You know, if you're out riding, you have some cool pictures that you want to share, please. It would be really great to get some new artwork out there. You know, show people that we're always doing something, because otherwise it looks, you know, it gets static, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Where do you want us to send them?
How about to the, what is our Uda, what is our is it motorcyclerotarians@gmail.com?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. So now that I've bored y'all to death,
No, very interesting. I
Not a
don't
chance. It
ever
was
want to have
very
to do that
interesting.
because I can't compete.
Well, actually, that does lead me to something. Yeah, we want y'all to step up. And I'm gonna maybe I'll embarrass him in a second, but Jim Dodmead has talked on multiple occasions about cybersecurity. He gave that beautiful presentation for about everybody's military service. We want to encourage everyone to start pulling together a presentation, and just so that we have if we don't have a speaker available, because once again we schedule these speakers pretty far out. If everybody can give the classification talk, whatever you want to call it. You want to talk about a trip, just give us a presentation on a trip. I know we've had a couple of those come up, but it would be really
David.
great to hear more from our members.
David did it last time. It was also very interesting, David. Thank you again
Oh,
for
yes.
doing that. Yes, that was a great talk. And so the idea behind that is, because I stepped in, Deb stepped in, but already we didn't know anything about you guys, So, and if you have a normal meeting, you have the social talks in the front or in the end, but we don't have that. So for us, it's also very interesting. And especially when you're a networker, maybe sometimes, like, David said, it's over. You cannot make a network anymore. It's not helping me, but it's good to know. And like Deborah said, for me, it's clear we have to sit together and we have to talk over some technical things, because I'm interested in that and I want to change that and I want to know that. And this is the same what maybe, Rory is interested to do that and make it a little bit easier, or Amanda from the job side is seeing things what she can need. How can we do that when we don't know each other finally? So, but by the way, I have to make my own classification because I never did that. I will put mine together and I will stepping up after you, Deb.
And it's come up that it would be, we're limiting it. If you look at the month, we generally will have 2 speakers coming in a month. I think, is it 2? Yeah, I think it's 2. And usually they're from outside. It could be motorcycling, it could be any number of things. But then it would be really great to get some people to come and, a member. So once a month, a member speak and talk about, whatever they're learning, whatever their interest is, or, maybe have an interest beyond motorcycling that you want to talk about. I think it would be a change of pace. And, we always have things going on that I think, if something is going up, if something comes up, at least somebody could step into that void. So I think it would be really great. And like I said, do you really want to be voluntold you're going to give this, or I'm just going to ask you nicely to volunteer and step up to the plate?
Yeah. I think we should
Sure,
just
Amanda.
draw names.
Sure,
We should
Amanda.
just draw names out of a hat. I think that's what, or we could do like close your eyes and point at the screen roulette, and it's like, oh, it looks like it's
Like,
Ron
no.
Metzger.
Yeah, I mean,
Snore.
the
Snore.
entertainment that can come from this is fantastic.
Or we could ask
Or
somebody
the lack
to
of
present about
entertainment.
somebody else.
I joked, I'm like, I got to get up here and talk. I had actually been working on that whole slideshow. It was like, I realized that the one thing we always have trouble with is as people, and maybe not everybody has this problem, but it's like, we don't talk about ourselves. We don't talk about our accomplishments. We're not very good at that, because we're told, we want to be humble and everything else. So it was kind of a challenge to come up with a presentation about myself. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. But remember, Deb, when I asked you for lunch and you said, a little bit about that. And when I came over, she was like, oh, I didn't know that you doing that, or you are active in that or whatever. And she had such a other pick from Rotary, what the people doing. She heard about that, but she never was, interested in that. And then we visit some clubs together. and we will visit some more. And she was totally, afraid about like, oh, I'm not coming from the Rotary side, or how I can, acting. And I said, you're fine,
And
So
it's been an adventure. I mean, I
Yes.
know many of you have been doing this for many years. So, for me to come in, especially at kind of the point in my life that I'm at, it's definitely been interesting. And, and you go into these clubs and you see how people interact. And I mean, I'm grateful for Chris and Uda. They've taken me, we have a downtown Houston club that is huge and amazing. And it was like, wow. And,
Mhm.
they get crazy, they get interesting speakers. I
Mhm.
want to say recently, because now I'm on their email list. So one of their speakers recently was Dan Crenshaw, and they get all sorts of really interesting speakers there. And so it's good to know what's going on in your local. And for me, it was very educational to find out what was going on locally as well as in our group, I guess.
And the people are totally surprised when they're asking you, oh, you are a Rotarian, what club you are? And then you say, oh, motorcycle Rotarians. That was happened to me when I was in North Carolina and joining the Rodeo meeting in the one club. And they was like, oh, can you tell us about it? We didn't heard about that.
But so now y'all got lots of information.
Okay, I'd like to make a suggestion for everybody. When you do your presentation, it has to include one baby picture.
Ah,
I agree. I love it.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious.
That's always
like-
a story generator. So
And I'm going, okay, that could be in those boxes behind me somewhere. Oh, Lord. God.
it's easier for me because my mom passed away, and when we cleaned everything up, I got a bench of pictures, really old pictures when she was a baby, when I was a baby. It's so right now it's a good thing.
Maybe
I have it.
for our New Year's happy hour meeting, or for
Yeah.
our January happy hour meeting, we could have everybody submit a baby picture and then do a guess who.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Perfect.
Baby New Year
Baby
game.
New Year
Who's the
meeting.
baby?
Yeah, right. We're gonna get all these grandchildren, and we're gonna be trying to guess who's grandchildren. Who belongs to who.
That's a good question with
no, that might be a good fun event we could have somehow. If everybody submitted their baby picture, we made collage
Yeah.
and then I don't know, you spend $10 and whoever gets the most correct gets half the pot and the club gets the other half or something.
Oh,
I like it.
that would be hilarious.
Easy peasy. Just put it on one sheet, put numbers next to every picture, and then everybody submits their answers.
Exactly. So look, Keith.
What was that, Jerry? Are you going to do that? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
The January happy hour?
I don't know.
meeting?
So, and Keith, this
What I
time,
heard.
thank you for holding it so long with us. So thank you, because he's so in pain. He don't know how to sit, and he's just still joining us.
Keith's in pain?
Yeah.
Oh,
What
I
happened?
am.
What
Well,
happened?
I am because my gall darn Badgers let those stupid Hawkeyes go to the championship this coming week.
That's okay.
But
If it makes you
Michigan's
feel any
gonna
better, I got
annihilate
news.
What the hell? I've been bugging all my Michigan friends up here. They've been giving me crap right and left. And all I tell them
Well-
is every Big Ten team this year that made it into that top four
Don't
got knocked
do
out
it.
this week. They got knocked out the next week, man. And guess what? Iowa showed up big time at that last quarter. They're back to the team they were at the start of the season. So everybody got healthy.
It should be a good game. If nothing else, it's going to be a good game.
Regardless.
Honestly,
Go
like this is
Blue.
hard for me to say, but like the Ohio State Michigan game, both of the teams played really, really good. They played really well. So
Well, both of them are
looking
going to
forward
end up
the
with
game.
good bowls regardless.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
lots
Yeah.
of money coming into the Big Ten. I'm happy.
And Amanda,
Hey, can I get
don't stop trying with Matthew McConaughey.
I know. I got to get Matthew McConaughey. He lives in Texas. He's an outbound Rotarian exchange student. He went to Australia. Jerry, maybe. you can-
Exactly. Yeah.
And he rides
Do we have
motorcycles. Like
anybody
it
in
seems like a
Texas?
really good fit.
Yes.
I
He
have
would.
to check with my Austin crowd, because I gotta have somebody who knows.
Somebody's got to have a connection, right? Like I keep just randomly posting on his wall. Be like, just a reminder, we have a meeting tonight. Hey, you know.
Stalker.
And if
stalker.
you guys haven't read it, I can't remember if I told you, but if you haven't read it, I highly recommend getting the audiobook version of his book Green Lights that he narrates, because his chapter on his exchange to Australia is like gut-bustingly hilarious.
And probably true.
100%. It sounds like a lot of other stories I've heard. Not my story. I had a fantastic host family, but yeah.
All right, Jerry, you were making a suggestion.
Oh, no, I just wanted to make a couple of quick happy bucks before we're done, because I got on here late. I'm sorry. But a couple of them is that just this afternoon, I was working with David. Urinal, how do you say his name? General. Yeah, and we've got things going. I just shipped him the lensometer, and he and I are going to work through over how it's going to be used there, and we're going to launch our first project with the Rotorex doing eyeglass fun stuff.
Great.
So it's going to be a model project, and we'll probably repeat that 2, 3, 4 times a year. So yeah,
That's awesome,
and then
Jerry.
that's
And
kind of
with
cool.
that's with his local
The
club, right?
my trip to Kenya got canceled last week because the government's not allowing mission groups to amass any kind of people in Kenya yet. They're only at about 6% rates in terms of vaccinations. And but the group there has made an arrangement, and the core group of us that were in this other mission are now going on an exploratory mission in Egypt. We're leaving on January 14th. And so I'll be in Egypt for a couple of weeks. And then right after I get back, and now it looks like I've got to quarantine for 2 weeks before I leave, because there's 70 plus countries now that are banning travel from countries in Southern Africa. And somehow Guatemala thinks that Egypt's one of those southern countries, and they're the only country that's banning travel from Egypt right now. So I get to be back in our country for 2 weeks before I go to Guatemala. But on the 19th of February, I'm doing a mission project in Guatemala. So,
Jerry, is there any chance that somebody could hop on that trip to Egypt?
give Nelson a call. He was booking things like right away. You need to call him right away. I'll email you his phone number.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure you saw my email about Guatemala.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that because that's strange to me, but I will. I want to understand that more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you,
Awesome.
guys. David, would you like to lead us in the 4-way test?
I think I'm the David. Of
That
all the
would be
things
great.
we think, say, or do, first,
Is
it the truth?
Truth.
Second, is it fair to all concerned?
Concern.
Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? 4, is it fair to all concerned?
Yes.
5,
Is it fun?
fun. 6, will we get caught?
Will we get caught?
I never had that. That's cool. So thank you, guys.
I usually do.
I never had that. I never had the 6 points. So thank you for that, David. And thank you guys for joining us tonight. And we will see us next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Have a good
Bye.
week.
Thanks, you too.
Amanda,
Bye.
quick
Yeah, I can stay
question
on. Yeah.
before. Okay, hold on, Ute, for a sec. Quick question.